you can joyfully make money. That's possible. And you can learn to do that intelligently, working with spiritual principles that will allow you to not only make money, but more importantly, to, as the name suggests, to connect to both inner and outer abundance. And that's really the key point here, is to know that fundamentally it's the inner abundance that is what we really want to connect with, that everything else flows from that. And this is the big mistake that most people make, is that they're looking for outer abundance before they connect with inner abundance. And by the way, just so it's clear, even though the superficially the focus here is on money, and absolutely when you put into practice what I'm describing to you in this series, you will make money. Fundamentally, everything that I'm talking about here applies to your life more broadly. So if you think, well, I've got plenty of money, I don't need any more, this is still going to help you with other areas of your life. It's not just about making money, even though the focus is specifically about money. It has broad reaching implications. And before we get right into it, I want to also, as I usually do, I want to make sure that you can know if you're in the right place or not. Because I respect you and your time, and I want to make sure you know if you're in the right place. Okay, so overall, what is the intention of this meeting? All of the meetings that I have this overall intention. So you want to make sure that this fits with what you're looking for, which is self-realization, which means knowing who you are. It means knowing what your powers are. It means knowing your relationship with reality. And fundamentally, what that offers you is fearlessness. So if you're done with fear, if you're done being afraid of life, then this is probably for you. If you're ready to know yourself, if you're ready to be empowered, if you're ready for true peace and happiness, then this is probably for you. A lot of the time, this idea of self-realization is not made clear, and so we're left kind of wondering, gee, what on earth does that mean? Uh, will I turn into like a rainbow of light and ascend to the sky? What exactly does this mean? Am I going to suddenly have superpowers to heal people with my hands? What does it mean exactly? And I'm just trying to, as best as possible, demystify that a little bit. I mean, there's still quite a lot of mystery there, but because you don't know who you are. But the point of self-realization, or what it really means, is knowing who you are. And that knowledge, that self-knowledge, is at all levels. And so, because a lot of the time also people will say, gee, what does that mean, knowing who I am? It sounds so exotic. It means that you are a multidimensional being. You exist as consciousness, pure consciousness, as the dreamer of the dream, as the one who is aware, which is, when you consider it, it's pretty obvious, right? I mean, you are aware. You are the one who is dreaming all of this. This is happening right now in your awareness. So you are that pure consciousness, but then you also exist as the dream, as the specifics of the dream, as the individual expression within the dream. And so it's to know yourself at all levels. It's not just to know yourself exclusively as pure consciousness, nor is it to know yourself exclusively as the character, but it's to know yourself as the totality. And that should give you self-mastery. So it's not just about transcendence. Transcendence is one model of what's called enlightenment. It's one model for that. You're going to check out of here that you've graduated and you're going to move on. That's one model, but for most of us, it also involves that we have to know ourselves as unique individuals. So it's both to know yourself as a transcendence and to know yourself as the unique expression, and to have self-mastery, which comes back to this business of knowing your powers. So it's not, for most of us, it's not enough that we're just going to turn into a rainbow of light and ascend to the sky. That sounds maybe appealing to the part of ourselves that says, I don't want to hurt anymore, and I just want to escape. That's pointing to the fact that you need to have self-mastery so that you're not intimidated by your own creation, because you shouldn't be, right? I mean, think about that. You shouldn't be afraid of your own creation. You should not be afraid of your own dream. If you're afraid of your own dream, it just means that you don't realize who you are and your powers in your relationship with reality. When you know who you are and your powers in your relationship with reality, then you know this is your dream and you don't have anything to be afraid of. And that gives you then fearlessness and self-mastery so that you have the ability to create consciously and to not be attached to any of it. So that's the big picture view of what's available. But again, today we'll be focusing on making money joyfully and the spiritual principles of inner and outer abundance and wealth. So now, in order for this to really actually work for you, it has to be directly experienced. And as I pointed out last week, and I think I already pointed out this week, the true abundance is who you are. And this is one of those things that can be said, but then it just remains, if it's just said, but it's not directly experienced, then it just remains this kind of, just a thing that you could share on the internet somewhere on social media, just the true abundance is who you are. And you could, put a nice nature image behind that and share it and get lots of likes and things like that. But it doesn't actually change your life until it's directly experienced. And so that's what I want for you, is for you to directly experience it. And so to that end, I'm going to offer a brief guided exploration that will allow you to directly touch upon that. And so for that, if at all possible, it's optimal if you can be in a calm, quiet place with some privacy. If not, it's okay, but it will just be easier for you if you can be in a calm, quiet place. You want to reduce the amount of stimulation for your nervous system so that you can just be a little bit more calm. And it's not because you have to be calm to know yourself, it's just that it's a little bit easier if you're not overstimulated. If you're really uncomfortable, then that's going to tend to be a lot of stimulation that's going to be a bit distracting for you. So if you can be comfortable reasonably, that would be better. And if you are comfortable closing the eyes, then close the eyes and we'll just do a brief exploration that will help you to have a direct experience of yourself. To begin with, just notice that you are here and that you don't have to do anything to be here. So by being here, I don't mean that you're in a particular location or anything like that. I just mean that you exist, that you are present, that you exist. So just notice that, and notice that that's effortless, that you don't have to do anything to achieve that. And so really, there's no way that you can get away from that, actually. So whether you're stimulated or not stimulated, you still exist. Whether you're feeling happy or sad, you still exist. Whether you're feeling safe or unsafe, you still exist. So your existence is independent and unconditional, always here, which is good news. Now, notice this existence. And by existence, I just really literally mean your existence, the fact that you exist, your being, not the content, but just the existence itself, just the fact that you exist. And just notice whether you can find a boundary to your existence. See if you can find where your existence starts and stops. See if you can find an edge to it, any limitation to it. See if it actually exists in space at all. See if there's any way that you can define it, or if, in fact, your existence is undefinable, limitless, boundless, and infinite. So hopefully that's somewhat obvious, that your existence is limitless, unconditional, infinite, boundless. So This is the definition of abundance. Your being, your existence is abundance itself, limitless, infinite, absolutely free. And here I'm just inviting you to notice this directly. I'm not inviting you or asking you to think about it or agree with it or accept it or anything. I'm just inviting you to notice it in direct experience. Just tell the truth about it and notice, yep, I exist and this existence is limitless. It's boundless. It has no definition. It has no form. It has no shape. Just to notice that directly. And then to also notice that this is, by definition, this is true abundance. So this is really the truth. Now, let's also notice the relationship of existence and true abundance with creation or experience. So notice that you are aware of sensations, and those sensations take the form of sounds, tactile sensations, thoughts, perhaps smells, tastes, and even though your eyes are closed, it's possible that you can notice some visual stimulation. So all of this is happening, and this is what makes up all of experience. So just notice that that is true. Notice that everything in your life consists of the sensory information. And notice that all of this is appearing in you, in your being, in existence. So you as existence, you as being are infinite, limitless, boundless, pure abundance. And within you, all experience occurs in the form of thoughts, images, sounds, feelings, smells, tastes. So notice that that infinite abundance of being actually manifests within you as infinite, unlimited experience. So right now, just in your inner world, with your eyes closed, just in your imagination, you have unlimited experience that's possible in your imagination. You could imagine anything. It's all possible, and it's all happening within you. And now let's notice the relationship between inner and outer. So keeping your eyes closed, notice that you are presumably hearing the sound that your mind says most likely is the sound of my voice. And there's this sort of illusion that occurs because your mind says that my voice, most likely, at least your mind says that my voice is coming from outside of you. But just pay attention and notice that actually the sound of my voice is occurring within you. It's impossible that it would be outside of you. It has to be occurring inside of you. It's the only place that it's possible for any experience to occur is within you. So the sound of my voice is occurring within you. Just notice the truth of that. And it might be very obvious to you, or it's possible that your mind might make some arguments with this and say, that's impossible. How could that be? But just see that it's possible for a moment just to drop all of the thoughts about it and just notice directly that actually the sound of my voice is happening inside of you. It's just happening in the space of infinite being that you are. So you are this infinite being. It's directly known that you are this infinite being. You are existence. You are this awareness. And within you, right now, directly experienceable is this so-called sound of my voice. It's happening in you. It's not possible that it could be outside of you. It's happening in you, and you can just notice that. And then you can also notice that there are sensations, tactile sensations, feelings that probably your brain says are the feelings that mean the whatever it is that you're sitting on or lying on. So you can feel certain sensations, and most likely your brain says that those sensations mean that there's something outside of you that you're in contact with, that they mean a chair or a bed or a couch or something like that. But just notice that those feelings, those sensations are actually happening in you. They're not happening outside of you, they're happening in you. Just notice that that's the actual direct experience, that those sensations are occurring in you, in the space of being, in the space of existence, in the space of awareness, that's where they're actually happening. That's the actual experience. The mind might interpret it in some other way, but if you just notice the actual direct experience, that's what is actually happening, is that there are sensations happening in you. So the sensations are happening independent of the thought that says what they mean. The thought is there, perhaps, that says what they mean, but the sensations are just sensations which are happening in you. And then the thought says what they mean. If there's a thought that says what they mean, then that's a separate thing that's happening, independent. But the sensation is just a sensation happening in the existence that you are. So the sounds are happening in you, the sensations are happening in you. Of course, if you're aware of any other things like smells or tastes, you can also do the same evaluation there and notice that those are happening in you. And it's possible that the brain or the mind says something about them, might have a story about them, that they mean something, and that something is happening outside of you. But if you just notice the actual direct experience, you'll notice that it's happening in you, in the space of being that you are. And then you can also probably notice that the thoughts, if there are thoughts, that those thoughts are also happening in you, in the space of being that you are. So the thoughts are happening in you, the sensations are happening in you, it's all happening in you. So then all of those things which the thoughts say are outside of you, say that they are outer reality, turns out they're all happening in you. Who knew? But you can hopefully directly perceive that. You can just notice it. And again, your mind might argue with that and say that that's impossible. But if you just for a moment set that aside, you can notice indirect experience what's perfectly obvious, which is that all of this is just happening in the space of infinite being that you are. So before we open the eyes, I just want to point out a few more things, and then we'll do a slow transition of opening the eyes so that this can be integrated fully. So notice now the relationship of the inner and the outer. So the inner, which is this space of being, which is infinite, which is pure abundance. Then within this space, we have what seems to be clearly inner phenomena, which is what we would consider to be imagination, because you could imagine all kinds of things and you'd say, yeah, that's just happening inside me. I'm just imagining those things. But then we can also notice that all of the so-called outer phenomena is also happening inside of us as infinite being. So it turns out that all of the inner and outer is all inner. It's all happening inside of us. And so then we can also explore what's the relationship between the so-called inner and outer. Already, hopefully, we've established that the so-called outer is also inner, but we can see that what we usually conventionally consider to be inner phenomena and what we consider to be outer phenomena is really the same thing. It's all just sensory data happening within the space of infinite being, which is directly experienceable now. And then the only difference is that of thought. It's just thought labels some of it as inside and thought labels some of it as outside. Thought labels some of it as imagination and thought labels some of it as real. But it's all the same, really. Just a distinction made in thought. Otherwise, it's the same. So now we can see what is it that limits our experience of abundance. So notice that you are that infinite abundance. That's your true nature as pure being. You are that abundance already. Infinite, unlimited, boundless. And then within this space of pure being, infinite abundance, that infinite abundance is manifest through your inner faculties, your inner senses and thoughts. And then it is translated into your outer reality only through thought, just the thought that allows it to be accepted on the outside. Because the so-called outside is experienced only on the inside. It's the same senses experienced within this infinite space of pure being that you are, that never changes. The only difference is that sometimes you have thoughts that say, this is just my imagination, and sometimes you have thoughts that say, this is real. So that's the only mediating factor, is the thought. Now, what limits the experience of that infinite abundance that you are in your manifest reality? And the obvious answer is how you think about it. So that's all that we're dealing with, is just how we think about it and how we allow ourselves to open up to and repeat certain combinations of sensory data. We can train ourselves to release the limitations in thought and to allow ourselves to repeatedly experience those things that we desire, and we allow ourselves thereby to experience not only the inner abundance, but also the outer abundance. Okay, so hopefully you have had a direct glimpse of this through this exploration. And now let's very slowly, when you're ready, there's no hurry, but when you feel ready to transition to an open-eyed state, please do it very slowly. So don't just fling your eyes open, because even though you won't lose everything that you've just gained through this exploration, you would lose some of it, whereas we want to really retain as much of it as possible. So make it a very, very slow transition, exploring, opening the eyes, and see that all of that so-called outer phenomena that the brain then says that you're perceiving on the outside is actually happening still in the space of infinite being that you are. So just open the eyes slowly so that you can retain that awareness of yourself as infinite being. And notice that the visual field is appearing in that same space of infinite being. It's just a habit that we have that associates the visual field with the outer, just saying that it is proof of an outer reality. But it's still happening inside. It's still happening in the space of infinite being that you are. So the substance of all of this, the substance of the of all of our experience is none other than that same infinite being, which is infinite abundance. So you're already in touch with it. It's already who you are. It's what you are. You already are that. And it's just a habit of thinking and perception that seems to limit it. So this game of manifest reality is really just about giving form to the formless. So infinite being, which is pure abundance, is formless. And that should be hopefully now clear to you in your direct experience. Hopefully you have glimpsed that, and you can at least, if not notice it directly right now, you could at least reference that experience that you had.